Stop. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. I still remember the smell of coffee and scorched hopes that day. It was mid-December, around 7 a.m., and Manhattan felt cold despite the swirling rush of cabs and bustling pedestrians. My name is Andrew Byford, 38, a cybersecurity specialist, and until recently, a confident husband. That morning, I was hunched over my laptop in the corner of our living room, scanning through log files for a client's data breach. My coffee had gone stale, but I kept sipping anyway. I live in a modern condominium off East 57th, wide glass windows, minimalistic furniture, and the faint hum of city life below. Veronica, my wife, was still in the shower. I could hear the muted hiss of water through the wall. Usually, I'd holler a good morning, or poke my head in to steal a kiss. But that morning, dread coiled in my stomach like a living thing. For weeks, I'd noticed changes. Late-night phone calls answered in hushed tones, the ding of text messages coming at odd hours. Receipts for dinners I never attended, lavish restaurants with tasting menus that cost more than my monthly utility bills. At first, I chalked it up to her job in advertising. After all, marketing people schmooze clients over cocktails, right? But some small voice whispered, "She's lying, Andrew. She's with someone else." I typed a few lines of code, stalling on the final keystroke. My reflection in the laptop screen looked haunted. Dark circles under the eyes, brow creased. Sleep had been elusive. Veronica had been stepping out at night, telling me she had client dinners, returning with a faint smell of cologne that definitely didn't belong to me. I noticed the brand, spicy, masculine, heavy on the vetiver. Not the kind of fragrance any of her female coworkers would wear. She emerged from the shower, hair damp against her shoulders, her face glowing like she'd stepped out of a magazine ad. "Hey," she said, all casual. "You're up early." "Just trying to fix a system glitch for a client," I replied, forcing a smile. "Everything okay?" She paused for half a second, like she was calibrating her next move. Then she nodded, offering me a practiced smile. "Yeah, fine. It's going to be a busy day at the agency, meeting with a new client." I swallowed the acid in my throat. I wanted to ask, "Which client, Veronica?" "The one you took to a romantic rooftop restaurant last Tuesday." But I bit my tongue. For now, she left for work, and I was alone in the apartment that still had our wedding photos on the walls. Warm memories of a time we looked at each other without secrets. I stared at the photo of us on a sun-drenched San Francisco pier. She was in my arms, laughing, eyes shining with sincerity. Where did that go? I wondered, a dull ache forming behind my eyes. I exhaled and stood up, needing to do something, anything, to calm the storm swirling in my mind. I decided to drive to the office, though I usually took the subway. Outside, the winter wind nipped at my cheeks. Streets bustled with horns, people in thick coats scurrying to their destinations. My breath fogged up as I stepped onto the curb. "Focus, Andrew. You're a logical man. Gather evidence before you confront her." That was my mantra as I slid behind the wheel of my sedan. At the cybersecurity firm where I work, a hush pervades the corridors. The hum of servers is my white noise, comforting in its consistency. I can bury myself in lines of code and complex problem-solving, shutting out the chaos of real life. But not today. Not with my brain replaying every suspicious detail. Veronica's giggles on late-night phone calls, her phone angled away from me whenever I entered the room. The new lingerie I'd found stuffed in a shopping bag under the bed. Lingerie she had never worn for me. By lunchtime, my patience snapped. I delved into my skill set, hacking quietly into phone records. It was easy enough to mirror her data streams, call logs, text messages, even GPS coordinates. I told myself I'd never do this, that our marriage should be built on trust. But that trust had died the moment she lied about working late. The logs told a damning story. Repeated calls to a single number at odd hours, Text messages that were short but flirtatious, some with heart emojis. The phone's location data placed her at an unfamiliar address near Battery Park when she supposedly had an office meeting. My chest pounded. This is it. Proof. I called a private ride to the address, half hoping the phone data would be wrong, that I'd find a simple explanation. The building in question was a sleek high-rise, all mirrored glass and chrome. The doorman gave me a polite nod. I returned a tight smile. My heart hammered as I scanned the lobby directory. Then I saw it. Ewing and Associates. The name sparked a memory. Veronica had mentioned a new client with the last name Ewing. But she never told me it was a personal meeting spot. I took the elevator to the 27th floor, feeling sweat gather at my temples. The hallway smelled of fresh paint and expensive carpet. I advanced quietly, adrenaline roaring in my ears. As I approached the tinted glass door with Ewing and Associates stenciled in gold, I heard voices. Hers, definitely. A man's voice, too. Low, self-assured. Laughter drifted out. Intimate. Definitely not a standard client pitch. The door was locked. I hesitated. You can't just barge in. Instead, I turned to the side and noticed a narrow frosted window. Through it, I glimpsed silhouettes. 2 figures. The man pressed Veronica against the desk, kissing her neck, his hands sliding up her body. I could see her slight arch, her fingers tangled in his hair. My world crashed in on itself. The sound died away. I was enveloped in my own silent fury. I wanted to scream, punch the door, break every piece of furniture in that glossy office. Instead, I fumbled my phone from my pocket, snapped a grainy photo through the glass. My hands trembled so badly, the shot was half blurred. But it was enough to confirm the darkest truth. My wife was physically entwined with another man. I stumbled back, nearly colliding with a potted plant in the hallway. A cold sweat soaked my shirt. She's really doing this. Every vow we made, every tender moment, lay in shards. My breath came in shallow gasps. Then, for a moment, a wave of calm lapped at me, a protective numbness. No meltdown, Andrew. Secure evidence. Think logically. That's what I do for a living. Trace digital footprints, find hidden data, stay composed under pressure. Now I had an emotional crisis with my name on it. I snapped one more photo. This time, the angle caught Marcus's face as he turned to whisper something in her ear. He was tall, dark hair, a predator's smirk. Veronica's eyes were closed, her lips parted in a silent moan. An explicit glimpse that turned my stomach inside out. Enough. I turned on my heel and hurried to the elevator, no longer caring about the doorman or anyone else who might see my ashen face. By the time I returned to my car, the shock had worn off, replaced by slow-burning rage. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, heart pounding. My mind reeled with questions. When did it start? Does she love him? Is it just sex? Then the sharper blade of pain. Why am I not good enough anymore? That night, I decided to confront her, but I wanted more evidence, more clarity. I needed to see how far she'd taken things, so I drove home, scanning traffic lights in a haze. Once inside our apartment, I set up covert surveillance with the skill of a professional. Tiny cameras in corners, a few hidden recorders near the living area. My domain is technology, and I know how to disguise digital footprints. If she brought him here, if they called each other while I was away, I'd catch every word. It felt sick, but heartbreak pushes you to extremes. I cooked a simple dinner, pasta and stir-fried vegetables, but my appetite was gone. She arrived around 9 p.m., breezing in like nothing was amiss, her coat smelling faintly of that cologne. My stomach clenched. Long day? I asked, voice strained. She nodded, shedding her coat. Exhausting. I had to wine and dine a potential client. Then she looked at me, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. Gone in a flash. You okay? Fine, I said, forcing my tone level. I'll heat up something for you. She waved it off. I already ate, she lied. I'm going to shower and crash early. I watched her walk to the bedroom, phone clutched in her hand. Probably texting him good night, I thought with a sick twist in my gut. But I wasn't powerless. I had the evidence. As I stood in the quiet kitchen, the overhead light buzzing softly, I made a silent vow. I won't just stand by, Veronica. I'll find out everything. Then I'll decide how I destroy what you've done. My heart hammered, but my face remained impassive. The same calm veneer I'd perfected in high-stakes cybersecurity negotiations. The next few days bowled into each other in a swirl of tension. I worked methodically, retrieving footage from the cameras, scanning text messages. She used coded language with him. The meeting went well. Looking forward to next time, loaded with double meaning. They arranged secret lunches, late-night trysts, sometimes at his place, sometimes in fancy hotel bars, other times in random corners of the city. My chest ached as I discovered a taxi receipt to a high-end suite near Times Square. She'd gone there in the middle of the afternoon. I recognized the date. I'd been stuck in a conference call all day, oblivious. One night, I overheard her on the phone while I pretended to sleep. I lay in bed, breath shallow, as she tiptoed into the living room. The conversation was muffled, but I caught snatches. I can't talk now. He's here. No, he doesn't suspect a thing. My fingers curled around the bedsheet. Naive. She thought I was some oblivious geek, too busy with code to notice the biggest betrayal of my life. I felt anger and heartbreak fuse into something bitter and unstoppable. Then the final straw. I found a hidden watch in her gym bag. A flashy brand, definitely not mine. A gift from him, presumably. My stomach nodded. This wasn't just a fling. He was showering her with gifts. She was lying to my face, night after night, slipping into bed with me after being in his arms hours before. A scandal was brewing. I felt it in the air, my own life turning into a twisted soap opera. And yet, outwardly, everything looked normal. I still went to work, answered emails, shook hands with colleagues, all while the knowledge of my wife's infidelity burned like acid in my veins. Finally, a week after discovering the affair for certain, I staged my next move. I installed discreet software on her phone that not only mirrored her calls, but allowed me to access her microphone in real time. It took me half an hour, a covered operation while she was in the shower. The next night, I sat in my study, lights off, listening through my headphones to Veronica's conversation with Marcus. Veronica, hushed giggle. He's clueless, I swear. Andrew's too caught up in his tech world to notice anything. Mark US, low voice. We should be careful though. I hate loose ends. Veronica, trust me, he wouldn't know how to follow a money trail if it smacked him in the face. I nearly cracked the plastic of my headphones. If only they knew that following money trails is my specialty, my bread and butter. She had no idea the lengths I'd go, or the intelligence I could wield if I truly wanted to ruin someone. They ended with her promising to meet him again that weekend. My body felt tight with tension, but my mind was strangely focused. If she thought me naive, if he thought me blind, they were about to learn a very different lesson. Because that night, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to expose the affair. I'd burn down their entire world. I'd gather every digital thread, every shady record linking Marcus to his rumored money laundering schemes, and tie Veronica right into that toxic web. The perfect revenge. I'd watch them squirm while I remained untouched, legally and socially. Let them taste ruin. I closed my laptop, stepping into the living room, where Veronica sat flipping through TV channels. She glanced up, gave me a fleeting smile that no longer reached her eyes. "You all right, Andrew?" she asked with a feigned sweetness. "You look tired." I managed a faint grin. Just a lot on my mind. My heart pounded with rage beneath the surface, but I stayed calm, an actor stepping into the role of the oblivious husband. I'd let them believe their charade a little longer. because soon enough the hammer would fall, and I'd be the one swinging it. That was how the scandal began, hidden behind normalcy and slow-building tension. I was both heartbroken and resolute, determined to see this betrayal end on my terms. And if that meant weaving a trap neither Veronica nor Marcus could escape, so be it. Betrayal carries a heavy price, and I intended to make them pay it in full. I'd always believed knowledge was power. Now, knowledge felt more like a loaded weapon in my hands, poised to detonate. Each night, I scrolled through Veronica's texts and calls, capturing every salacious detail. With each new discovery, my heartbreak fused with a chilling resolve. I started feeding the data into a private server where I compiled, cross-referenced, and analyzed. I wanted a blueprint of Marcus Ewing's life. Addresses, associates, rumored shell corporations. A single slip on his part could open a crack wide enough for me to obliterate him. On a frosty Tuesday evening, I hovered over my desk in the study, the apartment lights dim so Veronica wouldn't suspect my late-night vigilance. My monitors glowed with lines of code, spreadsheets, bank transfers, and cryptic notations. Marcus had left a digital footprint in suspicious offshore accounts. He was laundering money, the rumors were true, and he had entanglements with a broker known for turning on partners when cornered. I typed rapidly, linking data points, forging a trail that would implicate Veronica as well. I knew it was monstrous, but every keystroke felt justified. She might not deserve a prison cell, but after betraying me so callously, I refused to let her walk away unscathed. Would I regret it later? Maybe. But heartbreak and betrayal had twisted my sense of morality into something dark and vengeful. Outside, the city lights stretched into a neon horizon. I remembered a time when we'd walk those streets, hand in hand, pausing at bakery windows or pressing close under shared umbrellas during spring rain. Those memories felt like illusions now. Love had become a battered relic in my mind. Sighing, I sipped from a mug of lukewarm tea, then logged onto a secure chat forum. Using an alias, I began planting hints, anonymous tips about Ewing's financial dealings. If I could attract the attention of the right agencies, or that unscrupulous broker, the whole house of cards would collapse. Meanwhile, I meticulously uploaded files that looked like Veronica's digital signatures, her alleged communications with Marcus about funneling funds. Forged. Yes, but skillfully crafted. My heart hammered. Betrayal for betrayal. The next morning, I feigned normalcy. Veronica and I barely spoke over coffee, the tension palpable. She tapped on her phone, eyes flicking to me, but I pretended to read the newspaper. The front page featured some minor political scandal. If only they knew the scandal brewing in this living room, I thought, a wry smile tugging at my lips. Before leaving for work, she turned to me. I might be home late again. Big client dinner, she said. I met her gaze, forcing a neutral expression. Take your time. I have a lot of code to debug. Her relief was evident. She assumed I was still oblivious. That stung, fueling my resentment. All right then, she said, grabbing her purse. Have a good day. I watched her go, remembering the silhouette I'd seen in that tinted office window. The memory sliced through my chest. But I quickly clamped down on the pain. Revenge is a dish best served cold, they say, and I intended it to be ice cold. That afternoon, I arranged a chance meeting with an old acquaintance in law enforcement, Detective Lucero, a local cybercrime investigator I'd once worked with. Over coffee in a busy cafe, I told him about some suspicious financial activity my firm had flagged regarding Marcus Ewing. I played the part of the concerned professional, my voice trembling with just enough sincerity. I left out Veronica's name, for now. The detective's eyes narrowed as he jotted down notes, intrigued. If they opened an investigation, it'd only be a matter of time before my anonymous tips and carefully planted records guided them toward both Marcus and Veronica. When I returned home that evening, the apartment was dark. Veronica hadn't arrived yet. I flicked on the lights and sat at the kitchen island, wondering how it had come to this. The ring on my finger felt heavier than ever, a token of love that now symbolized betrayal. I spun it around absent-mindedly. Could I have saved our marriage? Possibly. But every memory of her moaning under that stranger's touch destroyed the notion of forgiveness. Around 10, she walked through the door, hair slightly tousled, her expression guarded. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile. "I'm exhausted." "Me too," I replied, eyes drifting to the slight bruise on her neck. A bruise shaped like a kiss, or maybe a nip. My stomach churned. I asked no questions, but my silence must have felt colder than ice. Days passed like this, me slipping deeper into cunning and bitterness, her continuing the affair under the assumption that I was too clueless or complacent to notice. My phone and laptop brimmed with saved messages, recordings, and digital footprints. It was an arsenal I intended to unleash when the time was right. In the shadows, I also discovered an unholy partnership. Marcus had a massive debt to that unscrupulous broker. The rumors from the dark corners of the internet said the broker wouldn't hesitate to turn on him, or even threaten violence, if debts weren't paid. My heart pounded with twisted anticipation. If I poke that sleeping beast with enough evidence that Marcus is a liability, maybe they'll do the dirty work for me. The thought felt monstrous, but heartbreak had carved out my empathy. Late one night, I sat in bed with my laptop, headphones on, scanning live phone data. Veronica was at Marcus's apartment. The microphone feed was crackly, but I heard them talking in low tones. "Marcus, we have to stash some money before the broker finds out. I'm too deep right now." "Veronica," softly, "calm down, babe. We'll figure it out. We just need more time." I could almost taste the panic in Marcus's voice. He was cornered. Veronica was trying to reassure him, sounding more like a partner in crime than a casual fling. Part of me felt a sick satisfaction that my wife was stepping into the quicksand with him. "You never cared about my well-being, so why should I care about yours?" The next day, I started forging digital trails linking Veronica to Marcus's shell companies. Bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, wire transfers with her forged e-signature, emails from her alleged personal address. Each file was a carefully woven trap, set to ensnare them both. I found myself almost entranced, ignoring the moral boundaries I once held dear. This was no longer about saving our marriage. It was about punishment. The phrase repeated in my mind like a mantra. She betrayed me. She deserves this. The thought made my stomach twist, but I kept going. One evening, I confronted my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I barely recognized myself. Haunted eyes, clenched jaw, the flicker of darkness. But the memory of her silhouette in that office, the knowledge of her repeated lies, steeled my resolve. I would see this through to the bitter end. And so the trap was set, step by step, line by line of code, each piece of evidence methodically placed. All I needed was the perfect moment to tip off the authorities, and possibly that menacing broker, so the avalanche would begin. Veronica and Marcus would never see me coming, not until it was too late. By then, any love or empathy I once had calcified into a single burning desire: revenge. I stood at my desk in the early morning light, eyes locked on my computer screen. It was the day everything would unravel. Detective Lucero had sent me a cryptic text. "We're moving forward. Thanks for the lead. Keep me posted if you find anything else." That told me the investigation into Marcus Ewing was active. Meanwhile, the broker, someone known only as K, had picked up rumors of Marcus's debt and shady deals. The digital underworld buzzed with speculation that K was on the warpath, looking for scapegoats or potential betrayals. I had all the puzzle pieces in place. One final push remained: an anonymous email to law enforcement, containing the carefully forged documents linking Veronica and Marcus in an undeniable conspiracy. My heart hammered as I typed, hand steady despite the turmoil inside me. "To whom it may concern, attached, please find records detailing the laundering activities of Marcus Ewing and his accomplice, Veronica Byford." I paused, hearing the hiss of blood in my ears. Could I really do this to her? Then I pictured the office scene again. Her body entangled with his, betrayal painted across their faces. Yes, I can. I hit send. A wave of adrenaline coursed through me. My phone buzzed on the table. Veronica's face lit up the screen. I answered, forcing calm into my voice. Hey, she said, her tone tight. Listen, I need to go on a sudden trip with a client. It's last minute. Will you be all right if I'm gone for a few days? I nearly laughed at the absurdity. Sure, I said evenly. You do what you have to do. She hesitated. Andrew. She trailed off, maybe sensing something had changed. Then she cleared her throat. Thanks. I'll text you. She ended the call abruptly. I set the phone down, a savage thrill pulsing in me. Run wherever you want, Veronica. You won't outrun this. The authorities and Kay's enforcers were closing in, and my data manipulations had pointed suspicion straight at them. That afternoon, I left the apartment and hailed a taxi to a nondescript cafe in Queens. I'd arranged to meet a contact of Kay's, someone who called himself Mason. He was a wiry man with sharp eyes, wearing a cheap jacket. We sat at a grimy table in the back, the noise of rattling plates around us. You got info on Ewing? He asked in a near whisper. I slid a small flash drive across the table. Everything you need to see. He's double-dealing. If you look closely, you'll see a certain Veronica Byford's been helping him. He's roping in people he can't fully trust. Mason eyed me. Why are you doing this? What's in it for you? My jaw tightened. Let's just say it's personal. I want him gone, or at least, handled. He nodded, pocketing the flash drive. Kay doesn't like loose ends. If Ewan's crossing lines, he'll pay. We parted ways. The moment I stepped outside, a fierce wind slapped my face, as if nature itself scolded me. I felt a twinge of guilt. Am I orchestrating violence? Possibly. But heartbreak had darkened my moral compass. I walked away, collar turned up against the cold, feeling both triumphant and hollow. 2 days passed. The tension felt electric, every news alert or message a potential bombshell. Veronica texted me sporadically. Working late, might stay overnight at the office. Lies, I answered politely, a puppet in our shared charade. On the third evening, chaos arrived. Marcus's name popped up on a local news site. Financial consultant under investigation for fraudulent dealings. The article mentioned law enforcement seizing documents and computers. I stared at the headline, heart pounding. It's happening. I clicked on the link, reading that federal agents had raided one of Marcus's offices downtown. They were building the case, my case, against him and his network of accomplices. Within an hour, my phone rang. Veronica's voice trembled on the line. Andrew, oh my God, have you seen the news? Someone's going after Marcus. It's insane. I clenched my fist. Marcus, the client you've been working with? I asked, letting sarcasm leak through. Yeah, I've seen it. Her breath caught. She must have realized she'd never explicitly told me his name. We did some ad work for him, but I had no idea he was into anything illegal, she lied. I'm in shock. I forced a calm monotone. I'm sure you are. Then I hung up, ignoring her startled protests. Let her squirm. Hours later, the door burst open, and Veronica rushed in, frantic. Andrew, I've got to explain. I stood in the living room, arms crossed. Explain what? That you've been seeing Marcus behind my back. That you helped him launder money. Her face went ashen. Doo-doo, what are you talking about? I didn't. This is all some misunderstanding. I stepped closer, fury radiating from me. Don't lie. I know everything, Veronica. The dinners, the hotels, the sex, and now your name is all over his dirty accounts. They'll come for you. She shook her head violently. I never signed anything. I never touched his money. I swear. Evidence says otherwise. My voice was cold. Digital records, forged wire transfers, all pointing to you and Marcus. Looks pretty incriminating. Her eyes widened. You planted that. You're a cybersecurity genius. You did this to me. She advanced, voice cracking. How could you? In that moment, I felt the weight of my actions, but the image of her betrayal kept me steel-hearted. You betrayed me first. I'm just finishing what you started. She lunged toward me, tears in her eyes. Andrew, please, I only wanted to feel alive again. It was a mistake. I'd never hurt you like this on purpose. Her sobs caught in her throat. We can fix this, can't we? Fix. My voice thundered, echoing off the walls. You slept with him, lied for weeks, and called me clueless. Don't insult me by asking for pity. A phone rang, hers. She snatched it up, voice shaking. Hello, she listened, then her face drained of color. What? Wait. No, that's not possible. I can't be. She slowly lowered the phone, staring at me with terrified eyes. They're accusing me of conspiracy. They froze some of my accounts. Andrew, they're going to arrest me. My chest tightened. Part of me almost relented. This was the woman I once loved. But the memory of her soft moans with another man tore at me like a fresh wound. I steeled myself. That's what happens when you play with fire. Suddenly, she turned on me, eyes blazing. I'll tell them you set me up. I'll show them everything. You can't erase your footprints completely, Andrew. I'll drag you down with me. My lips curled in a mirthless smile. Go ahead. They won't find a single connection. You're a marketing pro, but I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I can vanish data, create new data, spin a web that implicates you and Marcus, and keep me clean. Tears of anger and desperation glistened in her eyes. She advanced like she might strike me, but I stood firm. Her phone buzzed again, and she flinched. What do you expect me to do? She asked in a trembling whisper. Enjoy your new reality, I said, stepping past her. I'm done with you. I locked myself in the study, leaning against the door as her muffled sobs filled the hallway. A kaleidoscope of emotions, rage, sorrow, guilt, crashed through me. I was shaking with adrenaline, but part of me felt triumphant. This was the apex of our meltdown, the final confrontation. The seeds of revenge had bloomed into a poisonous flower, and she was tangled in its vines. Marcus, too, was cornered. The broker's men would come looking for him. The authorities had the forged evidence. My plan was nearing its crescendo. So this is what heartbreak and betrayal does, I thought. It twists love into hatred, marriage into a battlefield. I pressed my forehead against the cold wood of the door, breathing hard. No going back now. I filed for divorce the following morning. That act felt like an afterthought compared to the swirling chaos around us. Word had spread fast. Marcus Ewing, indicted for money laundering, conspiracy, fraud. Veronica Byford, alleged accomplice. Investigations were ongoing, but the news hammered them relentlessly. I stood in the living room in the early dawn, suitcase at my feet. The apartment was filled with memories I no longer wanted. Couple photos, souvenirs from vacations, a framed wedding invitation. Veronica had fled during the night, presumably to find an attorney or hide from the press. I stared at a framed photo from our honeymoon. She looked radiant in the sun, beaming at me with what I once believed was genuine love. I took it off the shelf, tossed it in a box, feeling hollow. Downstairs, I loaded my bags into a cab, heading for a quiet extended-stay hotel in Midtown. I needed a place to disappear until the storm passed. As I slid into the back seat, an unexpected wave of sorrow flickered through me. Am I truly done with this life? Yes, the divorce papers would finalize that, but it cut deeper than I'd imagined, sacrificing the dream of a normal marriage. Then again, that dream had died the moment I saw her silhouette with Marcus. Days bowled into a tense wait as I followed the news. The FBI officially charged Marcus. The coverage showed him in handcuffs, led out of a sleek high-rise. He looked dazed and furious, yelling at reporters. Police confiscated computers and files that matched exactly the digital breadcrumbs I planted. Veronica was also named, though she tried to deny any involvement. She claimed she'd been framed, desperate interviews, tear-stained pleas. But the evidence I left behind was airtight, her digital signature forging a path of complicity. She was out on bail, facing potential charges that could ruin her career and future. I kept track of everything from my laptop, safely perched on a hotel desk. I was still reeling from heartbreak, but each headline detailing their downfall soothed that raw ache, if only slightly. I watched short news clips. Veronica in a pencil skirt, flanked by her lawyer, refusing comment as paparazzi snapped photos. Marcus out on bond, pushing cameras away, face contorted in rage. Their arrogance had vanished, replaced by fear and anger. Then came the final blow. The broker's men found Marcus. I heard rumors online that Kay had forced him into a corner. He owed too much, had become too visible, too risky. One night, an anonymous source on a dark web forum posted that Ewing's been turned over, meaning the broker planned to cut ties violently or make a harsh example. I don't know the details. I never cared to. All I knew was that Marcus Ewing was done, in more ways than one. A part of me expected Veronica to show up at my door, begging, or possibly raging for revenge. But she never found me. I'd changed my phone number, locked down my social media, and quietly arranged a new home on the outskirts of the city, a smaller condo near the water, miles from our old life. I sold the old apartment in a hush deal, refusing to let those walls witness any more tragedy. In the quiet nights that followed, I felt a mixture of emotions I couldn't easily parse. Satisfaction, yes, for orchestrating justice, but also exhaustion, a deep, aching sorrow for what we'd lost, for what we could have been if either of us had tried harder at the right time. Sometimes I woke in a cold sweat, remembering the hush of her voice on the phone, remembering the look in her eyes when she realized I'd set her up. That kind of pain doesn't vanish overnight. But I had no regrets about pulling the trigger on revenge. Betrayal is a savage teacher. Maybe, in a twisted sense, I learned a lesson about myself, that beneath my calm intellect lurked a man capable of orchestrating a downfall. In the end, her treachery unleashed my darkest self, and I embraced it to protect my pride. Was that healthy? Probably not. But it was the path I chose. Weeks turned into months. My divorce from Veronica proceeded quickly, given the allegations swirling around her. She contested it at first, trying to save face, but my lawyer assured me it was an open and shut case. Infidelity, potential criminal conspiracy. No judge would keep us bound. I started the process of healing, though the scar ran deep. In my new condo, I hung few pictures. I kept the walls mostly bare. It felt like a testament to the emptiness I now carried. Yet in that space, I found a certain calm. The daily tension of suspicion and heartbreak was gone. I could work on freelance cybersecurity jobs, meet with a few trusted friends, or simply wander the shoreline with a cup of coffee, letting the salt air remind me that life goes on. One day, a plain envelope arrived in my new mailbox. I opened it, hand steady. Inside was a single note. You got what you wanted. I hope you're happy. V. I stared at the words, and an odd heaviness settled in my chest. Happy? No, not exactly. But free? Yes. And that would have to be enough. I stepped onto my small balcony, the wind tugging at my hair. I watched the waves ripple under the late afternoon sun, remembering how I once believed Veronica, and I would grow old together, share laughs in a cozy home, maybe have children. That future dissolved. But a new future was possible, one where I carried this story as a lesson in pain and consequence, where I started over, forging not just digital trails but a new life script, shaped by my own terms. I let the note slip through my fingers, carried away on a sudden breeze. No more illusions, no more lies. The past was behind me, sealed in a labyrinth of betrayal and retribution. I was Andrew Byford, A man who discovered the darkest corners of his own psyche when pushed too far. Now I stepped forward into uncharted territory, alone but oddly unburdened. Perhaps that's what betrayal does. It scorches the earth, leaving a raw, blackened patch where something new can be built. Not the same, never the same, but maybe stronger in its honesty. I inhaled the sharp sea air, exhaled every last shred of regret, and finally walked back inside. Epilogue. Months later, I would occasionally see headlines about Veronica's ongoing legal battles or rumors that Marcus vanished without a trace. The authorities eventually dropped the harshest charges against her for lack of conclusive evidence. She had good lawyers, but her reputation was in tatters. She left New York, returning to California, or so I heard. I never reached out. There was nothing left to say. My life continued. And if I had to define it in one word now, I'd choose resilient. Because I survived betrayal and lived to tell the tale. My final conclusion was that illusions of perfect love can shatter in a heartbeat, and sometimes you must become what you fear to defend your pride. Such is the cost of infidelity, and the savage brand of justice that follows in its wake. I closed the door on that chapter of my life. My heart scarred, my spirit hardened, but my mind free. And for the first time in a long while, I truly felt that I could breathe again.